Alright, we're going to look at an application problem dealing with systems of equations. The first step when dealing with an application is to go ahead and read the question. You may have to read it twice, maybe even 3 times. So here we go. A collection of nickels and quarters is worth $4.65. There are 3 more nickels than there are quarters. How many coins are in the collection? So again, let me read that again. A collection of nickels and quarters is worth $4.65. There are 3 more nickels than quarters. How many coins are in this collection? Alright, so now that I've read the problem a couple of times, now I'm going to see if I can determine what the question is asking for. What am I looking for? In this case, I'm asked to find how many coins are in the collection. So I'm going to be looking for the number of nickels, and I'll also be looking for the number of quarters that are in this collection. So in order to find the number of nickels and quarters, what I'm going to have to do is write 2 equations. So the first equation I'm going to write is going to come from the first sentence. I'm looking at the worth of these coins. I know nickels are worth 5 cents. So I'm going to write this as 0.05 N. So in other words, every nickel is worth 5 cents. Now I'm taking a look at the quarters. I know quarters are worth 25 cents, so that would be 0.25 Q. 25 cents per quarter. Equals, I know all of these nickels and quarters combined make a total of $4.65. So my first equation is 0.05 N plus 0.25 Q equals $4.65. Now I'm going to write a second equation. And the second equation is going to come from the second sentence. And that second sentence says that there are 3 more nickels than there are quarters. So in other words, the number of nickels is equal to 3 plus the number of quarters. So the second equation is N equals 3 plus Q. Alright, so at this point I have a system of equation. Now I need to solve this system using one of the 4 methods that was discussed. We have the graphing method, we have substitution method, we have elimination method, and we also have matrices. I think in this particular case, since it says N is equal to 3 plus Q, I'm going to use the substitution method. Alright, so to use substitution method, what we're going to do is we're going to take this 3 plus Q and we're going to substitute that into the other equation. So what I'm going to do is rewrite this as 0.05. Now instead of N, I'm going to replace N with a 3 plus Q, which is why we're calling this substitution. I'm pulling something out and replacing it with something else. Plus 0.25 Q equals 465. So here's my equation. Notice within this equation I only have one variable, and that's Q. Q representing the number of quarters. That's what I'm going to look for first. How many quarters? So here we go. We're going to use some distributive property to get started. We're going to start by multiplying 0.05 times 3, which would be 0.15. Then I'm going to multiply 0.05 times the Q, which would be 0.05 Q. Bring down the plus 0.25 Q equals 465. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to combine the like terms. And when I combine those like terms, I've got 0.05 Q plus 0.25 Q. And when I combine those, I end up with a 0.30 Q. And of course, it's still equal to $4.65. So I'm solving for Q. So the next thing I'm going to do is subtract 0.15. So now I've got 0.30 Q is equal to, if I subtract $4.65 minus 15 cents, I end up with $4.50. At this point, all that's left for me to do is divide by 0.30. And when I divide $4.50 by 0.30, I end up with 15. Therefore, the number of quarters is equal to 15. So now I know I have 15 quarters in this collection. But I still need to figure out how many nickels are in this collection. So what I'm going to do to figure out the number of nickels is I'm going to take this 15 and I'm going to substitute it back into one of the equations I originally had. So I can either put it in for this Q or I can put in 15 for this Q. It's whichever equation I think looks easier to work with. In my case, I like that second equation. It looks like it's going to be a little easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is replace that Q with 15, because we've already established we have 15 quarters. So if I add 3 plus 15, 3 plus 15 is equal to 18. So at this point, I now know that I have 18 nickels. So I've answered the question of how many coins are in the collection. I've got 18 nickels and 15 quarters.